Now is the time to build your own business and push your brand forward. Join us each week for fresh, innovative strategies to bring your brand and business to new heights. Call in at 888-994-4995, Studio B. Now let's get to the show.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of BYOB, Build Your Own Business, Brand Your Own Business, Bring Your Own Brand. We are here to talk about all things branding and how you can use different tools and different strategies to grow your brand and get more visibility and get more customers. I am your host. I'm Natalia Levy. I'm a chef and restaurateur and a wellness entrepreneur. And I'm super excited to welcome today's guest. Her name is Marietta. Hi, Marietta.
Hi, Natalia. Such a pleasure to be with you today.
Always a pleasure to see you, my friend. So let me tell you a little bit about Marietta. Marietta Gentles Crawford is a writer and personal brand strategist who helps business owners build magnetic personal brands and leverage LinkedIn to attract clients, media opportunities, and speaking engagements so that they can grow their businesses with ease. How about that?
It's a mouthful, right? Thank you.
No, you are a rock star, and you were like all over the media. You get interviewed everywhere. So I'm so honored to have you on our show. Thank you.
It is absolute. I adore you, so it's an absolute honor to be here, and I hope to share some really great gems to get everyone cooking with ideas.
Yes. So just tell us a little bit about your background and how did you become like the go-to person for LinkedIn?
It's funny because I always say that I started out as an intrapreneur where I worked within many companies in Fortune 500 companies as a consultant, as an employee. And basically it got to the point where my confidence was like a gift and a curse. I very much was aware of my strengths. I was very good at communicating it, and that allowed me to just be able to position myself for different roles, whether it was finance, pharmaceutical companies, retail companies, government agencies. And because I became so great at that, I decided that it was something I wanted to help others do, because I realized once you understood the power of your brand, you really have so much opportunities to grow your own career and take control of your career. So basically that's where I started. And then as my business evolved, LinkedIn became this platform that, as I wanted to get my message out, my ideas out to reach my people, that was like my main idea. My main platform, people started coming to me. People started asking me about my services. So really that's where it evolved. And then from there, I started focusing on branding on LinkedIn, working specifically with, entrepreneurs, thought leaders, experts, speakers, coaches, consultants, and helping them do the same thing.
That's amazing. And I love that you said that you had this confidence. So can we just pivot just a little bit from the business strategies for a second? Because I think that this is so important, because for a lot of us, when we start businesses, we might have confidence in our skills, but there's a difference between having confidence in your skills and having confidence to talk about your business. So can we talk a little bit to that?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I have the honor of working with some really great powerhouses and bold brands and personalities. And the one thing that, as much as you see all this experience, it's very hard to communicate your own brilliance. For those who are really good, right? There may be some people who have no problem talking about themselves, but those are sometimes the people who really may not have much to offer. It's like all talk and not game, and not substance. And so it is hard, because I think sometimes as experts, we're very close to our brand and we're very close to our brilliance, sometimes to the point where if you have 15, 20 years experience in what you're doing, it's so natural that you don't even realize that something that comes so natural to you is something that someone is awe and saying, wow, I wish I had the ability to do what you're doing. So that's where that disconnect comes from. And then as business owners, the internet world is so big. There's a lot of personalities. So what happens is that you end up trying to emulate and show how you're like the next, famous or, influencer, as opposed to focusing on what makes you different from that person in order to stand out.
Oh, this is such a great point. And even myself with some of my businesses that I have done, I get in my head and I'm like, well, how do I put together a great story about myself or about my brand? Because we never want to get into the state of bragging about anything,
Right.
which sort of pivots us to talking about LinkedIn here today. So LinkedIn, to me, I don't have a huge presence on LinkedIn, and nor do I have any, nor do I know any strategies or, what does my profile have to look different than my profile on Facebook or my profile on Instagram or my profile on the website. Can you please share with the viewers what exactly are differentiating factors of the LinkedIn as a platform for either a personal brand or and for a business compared to Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and website and all of those different platforms?
Yeah, I love that question, Talia, because really the first step is a lot of times it's really just a matter of understanding the use of LinkedIn, and rightfully so, especially for business owners. The thought is that LinkedIn was like a resume, like a very static platform where you talk about yourself in third person, you talk about how many years experience you have, how, you're detail oriented, team player, proven knowledge, all those things, right?
Yes.
And that's,
I think I wrote about myself in the third person. Yeah. Funny you say that.
And to be fair, there's nothing wrong with that, because at the end of the day, there really isn't like a rule book when you think about it to like LinkedIn. But as it evolved, it really became a platform that you really could make more dynamic. So it became about, using that summary section, which actually I love that is now called the about section, to really highlight your personality. Not only things that, let's say if you're a chef, like for example, you, Natalia, you're an amazing chef. You have a lot of knowledge in your industry, but what is it that makes you different? And from having the pleasure to know you personally, a lot of it is your personality, right? So everyone can cook, everyone can have some of the same foundations, but not often enough do we highlight those things that make you different. Maybe you were a lawyer in your past. Maybe you were, a veterinarian in the past. So, that LinkedIn profile, the difference when you think about an Instagram and a Facebook is that you literally have about 2,600 characters to write about yourself. And not enough times do people use that. Sometimes, like often you see like maybe a couple of paragraphs, right? And it's like, hey, welcome to my LinkedIn. Yeah. And really, there's like, this is a perfect opportunity to talk to that person that you want to connect to on the platform, that person that you want to go and want to learn more about yourself on the website. So that's really the difference, is that there's a great opportunity to immediately capture the attention of your target audience.
Oh my God, this is like the brilliance bomb right there. So the huge difference is, I'm like, my mind is blown, because I did write about myself in the third person. I actually just took my media bio and threw it in the media section. But I love that you talk about, to share more about, maybe a little bit about the journey, or a little bit about your different aspects of your personality, and what have you done in the business. Maybe talk about client success stories, or is there some tips and tricks that people can specifically think about when they're creating that about section? How do you make yourself more interesting or more fascinating?
Absolutely. Yes. I love these questions. Okay. So even when you think about Even when you can tell I'm a total geek when it comes to this. So thank you for just appealing to what I love to talk about.
And I'm just flowing. I'm just flowing. There's no pre-recorded questions. This is just the flow because I'm just like leaning in and listening.
I love it. I love it. So immediately, one of my first tips is to start out with an attention grabbing, well, first of all, it's the headline too. So, I mean, I'm going to skip past the obvious that anyone can Google up, right? So we all know that we need a great, picture. We all know about these things. So I want to give you some tips that maybe you don't see immediately on Google that you can say, oh, I already know that, right? So the first thing I call the beginning of your first paragraph even is that's a perfect opportunity to woo your ideal client. And instead of using that space, and for full disclosure, I was guilty of that where I said, hi, I am Marietta. Welcome to my LinkedIn profile page. So I just used like maybe, a bunch of characters and the first person, the person already knows my name, right? But it sounds cute. Everyone else is doing it, so we do it. No shame in that because I totally have done that before. But a better way, a more compelling way is to use that maybe to have a statement that's going to immediately capture who you want to attract, right? And maybe it's a bold statement.
Brilliant.
Maybe it's a quote. Maybe it's just something that is like, bam, your mantra. And then once you start and pull that first woo factor, I call it actually the 7-second woo in my course, because it's like you have 7 seconds to make a good impression. Use those 7 seconds to woo your ideal client. And then once we go into there, you want to make it very clear who you help, who is your target audience, what do you do, and how do you help them? How do you serve your audience? How do you help them solve their problems, right? And then one of the keywords that you mentioned that was so important, Natalia, is story. This is where we start going into your story. Mm-hmm. What makes you different from the next business coach? What makes you different from the next chef, from the next LinkedIn expert? And that's a great way to pull it. Just to give you an example, there's a lot of people that talk about LinkedIn and personal branding. One of the things that I like to pull as my differentiating factor is that I actually come from a very technical background as far as I used to be an IT trainer. I used to train systems. So that shows not only just a difference, but it also shows like, okay, there's another dimension to her outside of maybe what would be considered soft skills. So these are, one of the things I encourage people to do is look at not what makes you similar to your competitor or just someone else in your industry. We don't have to be competitors, right? But what makes you different, and tell your story. And
colleagues.
Yeah, exactly. Colleagues. Peers, right?
Yes.
So that's another way of doing that too.
I am just like listening. Is there more? Keep going.
Okay. Go ahead.
Well, hold on. I do have a follow-up question with that.
Yes.
So if people, especially now with some business owners that may have had opportunities like yourself to be in the media and to have been published in different media outlets, is this something that they should insert into this about section?
Oh, absolutely. But even better, what a new feature, and I believe everyone should have access to this right now, is that LinkedIn now has a featured section, right? So I actually encourage people to use that feature section to share an article that you were featured in, to share a podcast interview, to share those things. Because what's amazing about that, and why I would actually encourage people to use that section for those types of media opportunities rather than putting it into your about section, is because it's also about visual, right? We are visual beings. So, when it comes to drawing the eye of someone who may be scanning your profile or quickly looking at some details, having the actual article in the feature section is going to capture the attention more than kind of digging it, burying it a little bit in that about section. So definitely using those feature sections, even for you have like, you're doing all these amazing things. So like, having your shows, having maybe some of your top podcast interviews, or maybe, there was an article that did really well, have that featured so that someone who's scanning can literally go into it, get to know more about you, learn to know, like, and trust you, and, take that relationship offline.
And it's really important that you just mentioned about the like and the trust factor. We did a Business Kitchen episode show today with Brittany, and we talked about addressing customer fears or concerns, and we talked about branding and photography, which actually correlates really well into this, to have good images and to have good presence through photography. But when you are talking to the customers, to the potential customers or current clients, right, it's really important to be able to develop this trust, to address their concerns, potentially even before they consider. Because if you as a business do such a great job of connecting with your customers and establishing yourself as the go-to person, then pre-address potential fears and pre-address potential concerns, then it would make you that much easier to just like gain the clients, where people will be just like, I know you've proven yourself, I see that you've done all of this amazing stuff, and I have no doubt in my mind that I want to work with you, right?
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, there really isn't anything new under the sun, right? There's a lot of information from a lot of people giving it, but it really comes down, who do you want to get that information from? Whose personality do you connect with the most? Who do you like that you're like, you know what? I just want to work with this person. She has the same sense of humor as me, or I like this person, or maybe not too woo, or maybe they're like so woo and you love the woo. Whatever it is that is going to appeal to you, when it comes down to it, it's not necessarily that you're saying something that's so different, but you're allowing people the opportunity to say, I really connect with this person, and that's why I want to work with her or him or whatever the case may be, because I just feel this connection, and that's what appeals to that person.
Oh, I love it. I have so many questions. Oh my gosh, my head is exploding. Okay, so, and this is just based on this conversation, and me, I am learning about this in just the same way as the viewers are going to be learning about this. So I'm trying to think what would they find super useful. So I have two questions, but do you want me to answer two at the same time or one at a time? Let's do one at a time.
Give it to me. If I forget, then I'm going to ask you.
So we'll just have the flow. Okay. So the first question is, how important are, like, there's this section with endorsements and stuff like that where people can endorse your skills. So how does one go about asking, and is that important? Is that something that people look at when they look at your LinkedIn profile?
Absolutely. I love this question, because this is really a part of the social proof, right? And I always say, don't just say you're an expert. Show people that you're an expert, and have other people put that crown on you, right? There's a lot of times we want to self-crown ourselves as gurus and geniuses, which is great because confidence is important, but it's also important to make sure that other people are singing those praises for you, because then that's going to validate your experience. And so when it comes down to showing that social proof and having people sing your praises, those 2 points that you made is really important to stress, Natalia, because the endorsements are other people singing your praises. So let me just kind of separate it a little bit and take a step back. So some of the ways that you can have social proof on your LinkedIn profile is through two features, the main ones being the recommendations, right? So the recommendations is where you're literally reaching out to someone and they're putting a testimonial on your website, on your LinkedIn profile that's going to be there. And then the second one is the endorsements, where basically you want to make sure you have your top 3 skills, and you have people that will say, yep, I think that Marietta is good at personal branding and they're endorsing those skills. Now, one of the things, as far as a tip that I would recommend to your audience, is review your endorsements, because often when you may have first created your LinkedIn profile, you may have had a couple of skills that may not be as relevant as they are today, or they're not important. So definitely, as a quick takeaway, if you're writing it down right now, or anybody's listening, I would say to check your endorsements and make sure the first three skills is not like Microsoft Excel, communication, and something really random, right? So you want to make sure.
Which actually brings me, Sorry. This brings me immediately into like a super quick question. How often do you recommend to update the profile?
Oh, it depends. I mean, definitely regularly assess it. I would say every 6 months or so, take a look. If you're going through a rebrand, obviously you want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is aligned with your rebrand. So you're not, let's say I have a great example of a copywriter who's now going to be a creative director. You want to make sure that there is a nice cohesive message, whether someone finds you on LinkedIn or your website. So definitely, I mean, I always tweak. I mean, even from sometimes I'll look at my headline and say, you know what, I'm going to play with this, I'm going to tweak this or change it. So you don't have to do it every week, but definitely if your vision has changed, if your business is changing, make sure that you don't forget to update your LinkedIn profile accordingly.
Oh, great point. So we've covered so much about how to make the most out of the LinkedIn profile. So can we move in a little bit more into posts? What do posts look like? Do you just talk about the projects that you're working on? Do you try to sell your course? If somebody has a course, do people, what do we post?
I say come from a place of service. We always want to just come from a place of adding value. So when it comes to, what to post and what type of content to share, my philosophy is teach everything that you know. When we think of LinkedIn, and sometimes there's a little bit of skepticism, or a couple of people are, people are like, oh, it's too corporate, or everyone's trying to sell. The reason why is because sometimes everyone is trying to sell, right? We're there for some type of reason, but we cannot just make it about ourselves. So one of the things when you think about the approach from content, I always say, think about how do you share stories that is going to help your ideal client be better, feel good, feel inspired. So there's nothing wrong with, if you're in a feature or you have an article that's, to say, hey, look at my article. But even when you think of coming from a place of service, instead of just saying, hey, check out my latest article, pull out some excerpts for them, pull out some key points, make it easy for someone to not just say, oh, here's someone just talking about themselves, but be able to be interested enough to see that you're sharing advice that's going to make their lives better or connect them better to you.
Oh, such a great point. And it's all we keep talking about, creating that really amazing, really authentic connection to the customer. I know Simon Sinek in his video said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And maybe adding certain stories about what made you passionate about the business that you started. And from that, I want to pivot to, so with the LinkedIn, when we think of creating LinkedIn profiles, so for example, like my LinkedIn profile is my name, but I have multiple businesses that I work on, multiple projects. So does it make sense for business owners? Do they create a LinkedIn profile for themselves, or do they and sort of talk about their businesses through their personal LinkedIn profile, or do they create one for their business? How does it all kind of work together?
That's really good. I would say that's twofold, right? Because in a way, We are our businesses, but in the other side of it, we are the people, right? We're the humans behind our businesses. So the way that I would break it out, especially for someone like you, is let's say you have different aspects of your company, or different aspects for what you do. For example, you have your company, like for my company, I do consulting and coaching, but another aspect of what I do is teaching, speaking, workshops. So I would break that up. Exactly. So there's opportunities to do two things, and two simple things. The one thing would be to break out the different areas of what you do under your experiences section still, right? So even as you list maybe your current experience is ABC Solutions Consulting, right? Under that, you can also put ABC Solutions podcast host. Under that, you can put speaker trainer. So it's still a part of one, but it's a great way to, I'm going to use a word as itemize, but I'm not sure if that's the right word now. But for lack of a better word in my head, to itemize what you do, because they're all unique aspects of your business, right? And then the other part that I would do, the second piece of that, is creating your company page. So you pointed out, Natalia, that you have your personal page, which is under your name, but then you can also create a company page that's under your formal name, in which you can connect those two together.
Oh, brilliant. Marietta, you have given us so much absolutely valuable information, from how to create your LinkedIn profile and how to use the 2,600 characters, of the about section, and maximize that, and tell stories in your profile, and how to really add the experiences, and ask friends to endorse, friends, colleagues to endorse the skills. And oh my gosh, we have covered so much. What to post, how to create a personal profile versus business profile. This episode have been packed with gems, and I'm sure that you have so much more that you share. Tell the viewers where they can find you. How can they learn more? Because I want to learn more.
I know, and I just feel like if I can just say one more thing, just to add to the profile. Make sure that your profiles have a call to action at the end. Make sure you tell people where to find you. Don't make them have to look it up, because you may lose them. So always make sure to have a call to action, whether you have a lead magnet, a challenge. And then as far as like the endorsements and recommendations, get those recommendations, because that's the stronger social proof, where you're going to have somebody's face on your profile speaking more, as opposed to just pressing the button. So just a couple of things to add, but they're also important. And even just taking two of those things, Natalia, can improve the results that people see as far as improving their presence. For me, where you can find me, obviously on LinkedIn, so definitely I encourage anyone to connect with me. Shoot us, a quick personalized message. I saw you, from Natalia from the Business Kitchen Show. And then also my website is www.marybrandsforyou.com, which I think you'll probably have somewhere as well. So you can find me there, and looking forward just to, being able just to share and put a different light to make LinkedIn seem less confusing, and actually a place that people want to be to grow their brands.
I adore you. I have so much respect for you. You came on the show and you shared so much of your brilliance. I'm so grateful to you for your time. I'm grateful for our friendship, and thank you so much, and have an awesome rest of your week.
Thank you, Natalia. Thank you so much for having me, and looking forward to just seeing more of this, and same to you.
Yay! All right, bye.
Thank you for tuning in to BYOB. Join us next time for a fresh perspective and innovative strategies to building your own business. If you are a successful business owner with tips to help, or would like more information from our hosts or guests, please contact us at 866-224-5422.